Have you ever wondered how they estimate the population of wildlife in an area? Well, today we're going to have a look at how population sampling can be used to do just that. So, let's begin. Another use of population sampling is in the estimating wildlife populations. To do this, a sample of wildlife is first captured, tagged and released. Later on, after the tagged wildlife has had a chance to reintegrate with the rest of the wildlife population, a second sample is taken. To estimate the population, the following formula is used, where the total wildlife in population is equal to the total wildlife in the second sample divided by the tagged wildlife in the second sample multiplied by the tagged wildlife in population. So in our question here, we've got a sample of 80 fish that are first caught, tagged and released into a dam. Later, 200 fish are caught, and it's noted that of the 200 fish, 30 of them in the sample have been already tagged. What is a reasonable estimate of the number of fish in the dam? So, when we're using our formula, we first need to work out what is the total wildlife in the second sample. So if we highlight it here, the second sample has 200 fish. So therefore, 200 is on top of the fraction here. On the bottom of it, we've got tagged wildlife in the second sample. If we looked at how many were tagged in the second sample, we note that 30 of the fish had been tagged. So, on the bottom of our fraction, it's going to be 30. Then, we multiply this with the tagged wildlife in population. Now, the total tagged wildlife in population came from the first sample that we tagged. We tagged all of the first sample. And the first sample had 80 fish that were tagged. So therefore, we multiply it by the 80 fish that were tagged. Now, when we multiply this out, we find that there is an approximately 533 and 1/3 fish in the dam. However, this is only an estimate, and we've been asked to provide a reasonable estimate. Now, what that means is we need to interpret this. A reasonable estimate would probably be to the nearest 100 in this problem. So, therefore, there is approximately 500 fish in the dam. So to recap, in order to provide an estimate of the wildlife population, you first need to capture, tag and then release a sample of the population. Then you catch a second sample of the population and you need to look at how much of that population is tagged, how big was the second sample, and you take the second sample, divide it by how much was tagged, and then multiply it by how big your first sample was. So now let's have a look at a question for yourself. Your practice question today is similar to what we had, except this time your first sample of fish was 200 that you tagged and then released. Sometime later, to give them a chance to reintegrate with the population, you took a second sample of 150 fish and you found that 15 of these fish were tagged. What is the estimated fish population of the lake?